Welcome to today's podcast. And today I want to start with the following sentence. Our users just need training. Now, I hear that so often when I talk with clients, when I get rolled into projects, just this one sentence. Our users just need training. And it sounds very reasonable, right? Very logical, very responsible. The company has thought about rolling out training to their users because we're rolling out Salesforce. The challenge with it is that if you just stick to that sentence, you're going to set yourself up for adoption failure. And the reason for that is the sentence, our users just need training, sort of implies that all your users need the same training. And that is just not the case, because our users are inherently different. Now, in this case, I'm not going to talk about the different user groups based on departments. For example, sales versus finance, marketing, call center. We sort of all know that they already have different training needs. And often training is already adapted to those different kinds of groups. In this case, I want to talk about a more nuanced overlying groups that you have, wherefore you need to change your training. And these are sort of more on the type of people. And what I talk about here is sort of our novices, our reluctant users, and our high performance. We have to make sure we identify these three groups within our organizations because they're really important in how successful our Salesforce adoption is going to be. Now let's start talking about our novice users. So what do I mean by that? Now they're not just novices to Salesforce. These are also sort of your new starters. Your graduates, maybe career switchers, maybe people that return after a long absence for maybe maternity leave or illness. So these are people that are sort of new to your, not just new to your organization, but also new to the role and new to Salesforce also. So they have all these other kinds of things going on at the same time. And so because they're new, they not just have to learn your organization. They not just have to figure out how their role works, but on top of that, they also have to figure out Salesforce. And it's not that these people are like slow or incapable or maybe even bad with systems. Their challenge is that they're overwhelmed. They not, in this case, just have to learn Salesforce. They also have to start understanding their role. What is important? What isn't? What are our processes, our ways of working? And also those sort of administrative things. When do I need to be in the office? How do I arrange meetings? How do my yearly performances work? So they have all these different kind of things that are picking up their attention. And so they have all these different kind of things on their to-do list. And so when we then on top of that roll out Salesforce, it can be quite challenging for these people. And so it's important for these people that we sort of take them more by the hand. It's not just saying, here is Salesforce. It's sort of really start to explain to them, this is in your role, how you're going to use it. And this is what good looks like. This is how we as an organization want this role to perform within Salesforce. This is what is important. This is what matters. This is why you have to do certain things. We want you, for example, to make sure you log every phone call you make, log every email you send, because it might be for compliance reasons, it might be for reporting reasons, etc. We have to tell them to do certain things to make sure that they stay on top of their role and do it the way they're supposed to be doing it. The challenge with these people is they not just have this overwhelm of everything that's happening within their job. Sometimes they also have sort of this underlying fear of doing something wrong or asking too many questions or maybe looking stupid. So it is important that when we roll out training, we really make sure we take them more by the hand. We maybe give them more sessions. We take our time. We make sure they have a lot of time exploring the system, understanding the system. And so those sessions, we really go not necessarily very deep, but we give them a lot of hands-on and we take our time. And we make sure we slow down. We also make sure that we sort of adapt our terminology. Make sure that they understand that how we use, for example, in Salesforce accounts. What does that mean in the day-to-day working? So it's really important that when we start building training for these kind of users, we come with a lot of good real-life examples. So they really can say, okay, this is a scenario. And they think like, oh yeah, I heard about that recently. I did something like that maybe a week before or 2 weeks before. so that is how we're going to use it in Salesforce. It's really important that we, in that, make sure that we recognize that these are young and relatively new people within the organization, within their role, within Salesforce, and we give them the time to explore, give them time to understand. There is, of course, also a balance because we're all under time pressure. So we have to play a balancing act between how much can we take them by hand and how much, can we do in training and how much do they just have to get on with the job. And for that, it's also important that we do sort of what I call an aftercare. We have training. Maybe we record our sessions so we can listen back to them. Maybe we will record some short videos for them that they can look back to. Create some, maybe things like quick reference guides or one-pagers. So if they get stuck somewhere, they know there's information there that they can look at it and then go back to it. Maybe also for these kind of people, we think between training and go live, we maybe have some drop-in sessions or give them the option to stick around in the training org or in your playground and give them time to practice. So they will feel confident that when they use the system, they know how to use it and what to do. Now, another group of users, and that is probably our most challenging group that we have in any organization, is our reluctant users. Now, what do I mean by that? So these are the people that often are very experienced. They're the people that have been for a long time in your organization, also maybe in that specific role, and they really know how to do it well, and they have seen a lot, they've done a lot, they maybe have seen the organization change a couple of times, and they probably something like, right, not another new system, not another CRM, not another transformation project, not this again. And so they probably look at the change in ways of working like, well, I don't really want to do that. And it's not that they're resistant to Salesforce itself, they're resistant to the change because they've seen so much, maybe some successful, but maybe also some less successful projects. So it's important for them that we have to start building trust with them. We have to start explaining to them, what is it that Salesforce is going to bring to them? What does it mean to the day-to-day working? It shouldn't really, for example, disrupt how they do things. They really should start to see that when Salesforce comes in, things are going to be better. Things are going to maybe be easier. Things like time saving. I've been on projects where we could tell to people like, for example, every year you have an opportunity and they're renewing every single year. And normally they have to do it by hand. But in Salesforce, they have an automation. So now all of a sudden, the things are pre-created for them and they can go through their list and see, I have a renewal coming up. It's already pre-created based on the previous information. Or maybe we do things like sending automatic messages out or notifications, automatic updating fields. And so for them, we really need to start showcasing this was the old ways of working and the old system. This is how it's going to work in Salesforce. And this is really the benefit of the system. Because I always believe that when you bring Salesforce in an organization, it should be better based on what was there. And so for these reluctant users, we really have to make sure that when in the training we talk about, scenarios, day in a life, we really start to show them this is how it was before. This is how we're going to do it now. And not just showing that what was and what is, but also the reasoning why. And what are the benefits? Why have we chosen, for example, to go down a certain path in our Salesforce development? So these people really start to see like we have listened to our users, we really understood how our user base works. And this is why we're now bringing these elements in our Salesforce project to make your life easier. Basically, try to do everything and anything to take that resistance to the change away. It probably always will still be there, and some people just don't like change. That's just the way it is. So sometimes in this organization, you have to do a push from the top to say, guys, this is just what we're going to get. But also there's ways that we can be more subtle, It's not just always about rolling out a lot of mandatory training sessions and long training sessions. Make sure you start messaging early and give good messaging. Start notifying with emails and also show to these people, these are all the materials we have. If you need to X, Y, and Z, this is how you're going to do it. So really make sure that with these kind of people, from an early stage on, we build trust, and they have a belief that they've been listened to, and they can see that when sales is coming in, their job should be getting easier and maybe even getting better. Now, the last group I want to talk about is our high performance. The challenge with these people is they're often ignored because these are our top sellers, maybe our subject matter experts. These are the people within a team that everybody goes to for help. These are the people that know exactly how to do things, where to find things. They're very fast, they're very confident, and they sort of know everything. That is what they did before. But now with Salesforce coming in, they might not necessarily know where everything is. But the team will still go to these people because they know how things were before. And so these high performers, you want to make sure you give them that same level of confidence and that same high performance level when you roll out Salesforce. These are often the people that I would suggest to make like your champions or your experts. These are the people also you try to bring into your project early on. For example, for your user acceptance testing, and you really also bring them on early, for example, to help you with your training build. Get these people involved, ask them, what are the scenarios? What are your stumbling blocks at the moment? What are the most questions you get from your people? So that we can help them in getting onboarding on Salesforce and get from them the input, what we need to watch out for, but also give them from an early stage on the ammunition they need to stay that top performer. Because people will still go to them even after Salesforce. And so we want to make sure that these high performers, they feel confident they can answer the questions based on how things are in Salesforce. These, for example, are sort of also the people that you might showcase what to do when there are error messages, when there are issues, what are escalation processes, where do we log our information when people want change in the system, people think things are not working. These are the kind of people that you really give that little bit of extra detail so they really understand where our project came from, where the build came from, and they can help us troubleshoot. I always love to have these people in my training sessions, and the reason for that is they are a great help. I often try to, before I start rolling out training, have talked with these people so to give them a sneak peek in what the training is going to be, make sure maybe they have also an earlier training than everybody else. So when they are then in the sessions, they can actually be a perfect guide for the trainer. Because these are the people that have really the in-depth knowledge of the team. And on top of that, they already know how some of the things work in Salesforce. And they, especially with your reluctant users, can help sort of smooth the transition. Because these are the people listen to. Because they know, well, they were top sellers. They are our high achievers. And they actually already know how it's going to work. And these are the people who can sort of smooth the process for you. So overall, as you can see, training is not necessarily that simple. It's not just talking about our different departments. It's also within different departments starting to recognize these different groups. And we then not even start to talk about the different ways of learning, whereby some people, rather do things, other people like to watch videos. So it's really as important. And when you start rolling out training, when you start thinking about building training, you start thinking about all these little things. What is important with our users? What kind of users do we have? What can we expect when we start rolling out Salesforce? How much rejection will we get? How much resistance do we get? Will our high performances be able to get on with it, so to speak? And so it is important when you start thinking about training early on, you start identifying the group and you start building your training based on these groups. Now, I would love to hear from you what your thoughts are. Have you recognized some of these groups within your organization? And how have you dealt with them? What have you done to make sure that your high performers stay high performance? How have you dealt with your reluctant users? It'd be great to share your feedback and your knowledge around here, and let's get this conversation going.